Back here now on the Chip Shot Football Podcast to start looking back at the games that we saw yesterday. There was a lot of good ones on. Like I said before, we couldn't fit them all on today's episode, but still, with that being the case, we're going to talk about the Sunday Night Football game, right? Obviously, an anticipated one still, obviously, because of the fact that we had some very interesting storylines heading into that game. We had the Steelers coming in at 4-2, riding off of a pretty convincing win, you could say, over the Raiders. Not the toughest of competitions, but still, it all boiled down to the quarterback controversy, right? Will Justin Fields continue? And we got that answer a couple times last week. Based on the answers Mike Tomlin gave, he left the door open for Justin Fields to start, and then through some further interviews, it felt like it was getting clear that Russ was going to start. Why else would you give him first team reps? But it was the best. It was the best when they asked George Pickens about it. I think it was like Thursday or Friday or something like that, when Mike Tomlin, quite literally that same day, said that he made a decision, but they were going to keep it in-house. And in that same day, I swear, it was George Pickens asked about working extra time with Russell Wilson, and he said that, he's been doing that because it's his first start coming up this week or something like that, just basically giving it away. The same day that Mike Tomlin just said that they were going to keep it in-house, just a complete, face palm moment there, from George, dang, like George, you couldn't just, say it a different way. But regardless of the fact, it was pretty obvious, all George pretty much did was confirm it, but it was just funny how it all played out there on that same day. And it was Russ's first start as one storyline, but also the reunion between Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers, what everybody thought would be a seamless transition, just a Green Bay 2.0 from what we saw the last few years. It really wasn't that at all. It really struggled to get going. Russ, in his first start for the Steelers, spoiled the reunion for the Jets and Rodgers and Davante Adams. Pittsburgh reclaimed the top spot in the division just for right now because they are standing at 5-2, waiting on the results of this Ravens game that we have going on tonight. Also, while the Jets lose their fourth straight game in a row, they fall to 2-5, the opposite of the Steelers, and they're one game away from last place in the AFC East, which is insane because if you look at the chain of events from the beginning of just this year, if you would have told anybody that the Jets would have fired Robert Saleh, brought in Davante Adams, and they'd still be 2-5, it would just be like, what the heck would have happened in those 7 weeks for all of that to be true? And now that we know, it doesn't take away from how just spontaneous and just crazy these last couple of weeks have been for the Jets, trying everything, a lot of different, attempts at solving this problem that they have with their offense, and none of it has really worked so far. And it is unfortunate just because I want to see this work, because I didn't hate the Davante Adams trade. I just hated the fact that they were playing the Steelers the first week. They couldn't have waited one more week for this to happen, or just have it happen the week before, so I wasn't taken so off guard. But the fact that it played so well for the Steelers was great to see, being a Steelers fan. But still, the way it happened, it was very uncanny, just because it was so underwhelming for the Jets offense. And getting to the Jets offense a little bit in just a second, this is the first time since 2020 that the Steelers have put up 30-plus points in consecutive weeks in the regular season. And after a 15-6 deficit that the Steelers found themselves in last night, they scored 31 straight points right after that to win 37-15. Unrecognizable from this team really all season long, where it's been just a huge effort to get this team to play clean-looking offense, and we got the epitome of that for as much as the Steelers can provide that last night. And on the other side, like I said, the offense for the Jets hasn't really been there. Rodgers threw 2 more interceptions last night, which brought him to a total of 7, which I believe is the 4th most in the NFL right now, and he's on pace to throw 17 if he keeps this up, which would be the most in his career, surpassing his current most at 13 from his rookie year. So that's the kind of I think, worry level that we would have with the Jets offense. If we're talking about career lows for Aaron Rodgers, it's not anywhere you'd like to be, obviously, if you're a Jets fan. And talking about the interceptions and things like that, looking at some of the better performances, I think we'd have to start obviously with Russell Wilson in his first start. He blew out all expectations, I think, that a lot of people had of him, finishing 16 of 29, 264 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was only sacked one time, which that was a big problem or a big potential problem that a lot of people pointed out. The fact that he wasn't as mobile, the fact that the offensive line hasn't looked great, the receivers weren't really creating a lot of separation. So how was a older, more immobile Russell Wilson going to fare? But he was only sacked one time, so credit to him, but also credit to the offensive line for stepping up in that regard. Najee Harris had another great game. That's back-to-back weeks now where Najee's been looking very impressive. Against the Raiders, he had 106 yards and a touchdown. And last night, he had 102 yards, another touchdown on 21 carries. Jaylen Warren also looking a bit better after he was dealing with some injury problems. And receiving-wise, the best game so far of George Pickens is 2024 season. He had 5 receptions, 111 yards, and 1 touchdown. Pat Freiermuth had a decent day. Calvin Austin only had 1 reception, but I feel like it was made more of an effort to get him going. Van Jefferson finally contributed with a touchdown on a nice play there in the red zone. It all looked very efficient, so credits for the Steelers for that. While on the other side, the Jets not as explosive as you would have thought, just in the short term of seeing Davante get there and having all these high hopes. Aaron Rodgers finished 24 of 39, a touchdown, 2 interceptions. He was also only sacked 1 time, while Breece Hall started off very well. He had a great day receiving-wise. He had 6 receptions for 103 yards, and on the ground, maybe not so effective, 12 carries for 38 yards, but he scored a rushing touchdown as well. Davante Adams in his debut, while he has a great relationship with Aaron Rodgers, fitting into this new environment, he only finished with 3 receptions for 30 yards. I'm pretty sure he had no receptions in the entire second half. Garrett Wilson had the leading numbers as the receiver with 5 receptions for 61 yards, but obviously had that big drop that led to the second interception for Aaron Rodgers. So that was a lot of things went wrong for the Jets in that matchup. And looking at how the game sort of broke down, Pittsburgh actually led this game at 3-0, but offensively, the way that it looked, just based on the eye test, there was a lot of boos starting to rain down on this offense after a few drives where 3 straight drives where they punted to start the game. They got a field goal in their first drive, but after that, they really struggled to get anything going. And all while the Steelers struggled to get the bus rolling, the Jets took advantage and scored that touchdown by Breece Hall. Now they led it 7-3, and then to make matters worse, the Steelers only respond with another field goal while the Jets drive down and Aaron Rodgers throws a touchdown near the goal line to Tyler Conklin. And that whole weird scenario with the challenge flag, whether or not Breece Hall scored, Jeff Ulbrich throwing the challenge flag on the field, Rodgers throwing it off the field. It was all very weird, and I didn't think it was such a big deal that the Jets weren't going to score, and they converted anyway, and they led 15-6 in that first half, or in the second quarter actually. Then Pittsburgh punted after that drive, and it looked like at that moment where Pittsburgh punted again after the Jets had just scored, to me, watching the game, I'm thinking, this is pretty much it here. If they score a touchdown, it's going to be an early nail in the coffin sort of game, right? Because if they score and they go up to, 22-6, I would have found it very hard for this Steelers team to come back. But what was huge about that was that interception by Beanie Bishop over the middle of the field that obviously from that point on led to a touchdown by the Steelers. It was George Pickens, if I'm not mistaken, on that nice fade route. Great throw by Russell Wilson to get George Pickens in the end zone. And instead of being 22-6, it's 15-13 going into halftime. And it's a huge deal. It's a huge deal, obviously, because of that. And then the same thing occurred in the second half after Pittsburgh started with a field goal to take the lead, 16-15. Rodgers threw another interception, like I said, a very costly one by Garrett Wilson. It just hit him in the chest. It popped up, and Beanie Bishop is there once again to catch his second interception, and he was able to return it almost all the way before Davante Adams hawked him down like DK Metcalf hawking down Budda Baker on that one play. He brought him down on the one. Russell Wilson scored a rushing touchdown, so the Steelers took a very surprising 23-15 lead in a huge swing of momentum. And then from that point on, it was all Pittsburgh from there. The Jets really started to kind of dig themselves in a hole with penalties, with after that drive that Russell Wilson scored. They settled for a field goal, which was blocked, and of course it kind of summed up everything that was going on in that game for the Jets. And after that field goal was blocked, of course, the Steelers go down and score another touchdown to Van Jefferson, really making it 30-15. And the Jets one last gasp at trying to come back. They don't convert on a fourth down play, and the Steelers right after that, to make matters worse, they go on a 13-play drive, and Najee Harris punches it in there at the end to make it 37-15. Just really, really steamrolling the Jets there in the second half. And all of Pittsburgh's 4 drives in that second half led to points. 3 straight touchdown drives and also that field goal to start that second half. The Jets went scoreless from the 5:30 mark left in the second quarter. They never scored another point after that. And it's a huge credit, obviously, again, to Russell Wilson for coming in, overcoming the boos, and overcoming, just not playing at all this year. And I'd like to publicly apologize to Mike Tomlin for questioning, having any sort of hesitancy for him making this decision. Mike Tomlin, the report said that he was pretty much the lone wolf in making this decision, right? It was his sort of hunch, his belief that he wanted to see Russ do something, that he believed that he can contribute something, maybe something that we hadn't seen from Fields. And it took a lot. It was a big risk, obviously, because this is a way that you could lose a locker room if you make this decision with everybody wanting to see Fields play. And if it doesn't work out and you get blown out at home, it's a loss that a lot of players would feel like would be on the coach for making a change like that. But Russ balls out and he plays great again. I'll never question the decision Mike Tomlin makes ever again for this change. It took a lot to make it, albeit who he is and the kind of resume he has, obviously, still a big risk to take. But of course it pans out for him, being Mike Tomlin and all. And the Jets had a few injuries to their defense, but it hasn't really looked the same, honestly, since Robert Saleh left. And I don't want to blame that on Jeff Ulbrich. I think he was just put in a bad situation where he was elevated, and then now they're still expected to make the Super Bowl. When that move was made, I said it's too sporadic to kind of believe that from making the change to Jeff Ulbrich to adding Davante Adams to now having Hassan Reddick back in, it's too all over the place. It's too impulsive and sporadic to one, think you're going to win a Super Bowl just the week right after making that decision. But this team doesn't have time on their side, so it's not a good mix to make everything so sudden and think that you have the wherewithal or all this time to make it all work. It's not. It doesn't match up for the Jets, and I think we're seeing it in some of these struggles where they have some of these penalties, or it looks like they're not on the same page, or the defense doesn't look quite ready yet. It's kind of weird to point out, but there were certainly some missed chances on offense by this Jets team. Like I said, the lack of chemistry, albeit all those years that Davante and Russ were together, there's still some rust to try and get accustomed to this new environment. And the turnovers, right? If you don't win the turnover battle, it's hard to win anywhere in the National Football League. So that's something else that they have to fix. The drop passes, obviously, to Garrett Wilson, the penalties and things like that, some missed throws by Aaron Rodgers, all of that they still have to clean up. And their defense, I think, most of all, has to start, kind of taking some pride within themselves and start making some stops, because in some of these games, they gave up almost 30 points to the Vikings. They just gave up over 30 points to the Steelers, who haven't been this sort of juggernaut on offense. It's weird because this defense was supposed to be the anchor to this team while Aaron Rodgers, made his way back. So while the offense certainly has a lot of problems to get over, I think this defense has been pretty underwhelming as far, and the quicker they fix that, I think it'll help out this offense a lot more to have that blanket, much like the Steelers do with their defense. And making a change like the quarterback position was never easy. But the Steelers take this one; they go to 5-2. They'll play the Giants, another New York team, on Monday Night Football a week from tonight. But the Jets should get back to winning ways next week, hopefully against the New England Patriots. But if they don't, that'll be a whole different problem once and if we get there. But that's still a ways away. We have a couple more games to get to on today's show. One of them that I tallied as one of, if not the best game of the weekend, the Lions and the Vikings certainly did not disappoint. The two best teams, in my opinion, in the NFC went head-to-head, and the Lions got a last-second victory over the Vikings at home. We're going to break that down, go over everything that happened, and what we learned about the Lions and the Vikings. So that is coming up. We'll be right back.